In your work in targeted online advertising, you look at the relationship between consumers and marketers and how our online data is being used to profile consumers. Do you think that the average user is aware of just how much they're being tracked or how much of their data is available to marketers?
Probably they're not aware. In fact, like the research sort of suggests that despite all these efforts of government and privacy advocates and everybody to sort of make people aware, they're just not aware. I don't know if they are not aware because they don't care about it or they're not aware because they're sort of like busy. And people don't perceive it in the same way as I guess in the physical world somebody would sort of be looking at them like with glasses, binoculars or something like that. So it's a different sort of experience.
If people find out that they're being tracked, are they going to change their behavior?
Probably not. It's very frustrating to sort of say that. We've done, I guess, two studies, one more recent about online media advertising and tracking and asking people simple things like, you know, you pay $1 for like a track off iTunes. Would you pay $1 to sort of protect your privacy in a better way? Nobody wants to pay $1 to protect their privacy. People aren't willing to pay a lot for that, although they might say that it's important to them. When you sort of try to put it in dollar and cents terms, they don't. And that sort of builds on an earlier study that we did about the perceptions of young adults online and what they care about. So they do a lot of sharing. And we actually find that they care more about what their sort of friends say to them and how their friends influence their identity and how they sort of present themselves to their friends, a lot more than what they care is done with the information that they post online about themselves.
It's an interesting comparison that you bring up when you say downloading music from iTunes, because you download a song, you know what you're getting. Even with me, if you were to tell me that I was going to spend $1 to get more privacy, like I don't even know what that means. What kind of privacy should they be wanting?
Right. Well, I think the challenge, the real regulatory challenge, if the governments really wanted to do something about it, is to translate into dollar and cents what your information means for the companies. So we hear about, you know, Google and Facebook making these big profits and, you know, valued at billions of dollars. So that's all built on the personal information that they're collecting from each and every one of us. If there's a regulatory way to say, well, you know, all the data that I collected from Ramona is worth to me $100,000 this last year, even though it was in aggregate form, then it would make sense to me, right, that it's $100,000. And hey, why don't I get a cut of that, first of all, right? Like you're making money off at my expense. I'd like some piece of that. And then maybe I'll say to you, well, you know, in that interaction, if I'm withholding $100,000 worth of information from you, maybe you should do it to me as a service rather than me paying you $1.
It seems that one of the trends for marketers right now is geolocation, especially as our mobile phones become more ubiquitous. They're with us everywhere. Is this the sense that you get from studying advertisers?
Very much. There's a lot of appeal to geolocation, both for the private sector and for governments, for state surveillance. So it's a bit of a scary field also. Part of the scariness of it is that it's not immediately obvious. You're dependent on technology to sort of let you know that you're being tracked. And I'm not a savvy user on my phone. It's like the equivalent of, is this camera turned on right now and taping me? I don't know, right? If they are nice enough, they put a little light on it and they tell me. And so I have that same little light on my phone telling me. But there are ways to write software that will circumvent that and ways to design hardware that will circumvent that. So it's quite possible. And there is research coming out showing the interest that governments have into having these devices track people, even though people are not aware of it. And so that's a scary thought that sort of leads to, you know, these dystopian visions of, you know, what kind of world we're going to live in, this brave new world of 1984.
Well, between the parts of our experience that we're not aware of, the geolocative tracking, and then the parts that we are aware of that we're doing ourselves, posting messages to Facebook, is there such a thing as private space anymore?
It's really difficult to sort of carve it out, I think. I think it's really you're sort of going back into that physical space in a sense that you can sort of shut the door behind you. Even that with the smart grid electricity project may not be possible because they'll be able to sort of know what kind of electrical devices you're using at home. So it's a big, big concern in terms of even a further erosion on what was traditionally called like, you know, a sanctuary, right? So the big fear is exactly that. The fear is that there isn't going to be any kind of private space that I can say that's my personal space that nobody can intrude on. And I think everybody, I mean, that's the baffling thing about it. Everybody sort of wants to carve out that personal space that solitude, that they can be themselves and sort of not have to present an aspect of themselves to some other person. And what's going to happen to us if we sort of really do away with that, I don't know. We'll definitely change as a society.